Hello friends and welcome back. Thank you for joining. This will be part 3 of our studies on courtship and marriage. Today we're going to be looking at the steps towards marriage, because we saw last time that there would be steps. Let every step of the marriage alliance. So we know that there are steps to take, and unfortunately the world doesn't know about these steps, and they're on the broad road that Jesus talked about that leads to destruction. But we don't want to go on that road. We want to go on the straight and narrow road that leads to life. But unfortunately, it is a narrow road, therefore it's going to be the very minority that will be on it. So it's going to look very different to what the world is doing, but it does lead to life and happiness. And that's what we want. Notice what the Bible says in relation to steps of our life. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. He delighteth in his ways. Now notice that there are steps and they are ordered or directed by the Lord. And the true Christian will actually delight to do the will of God. Just like Jesus, his experience will be that he wants to fulfill God's will in his life. Remember, we saw that the true Christian will not make plans that God cannot approve. So the Christian will allow God to lead and direct his life at every step. Now, what does this mean for our steps towards marriage and our homes of the future? Notice what the Bible says in Proverbs chapter 9. It says, "Wisdom hath builded her house, she hath hewn out her 7 pillars." So a wise house is founded upon 7 pillars or 7 principles. And for the purpose of our study, to make it a little bit easier, we're going to use it as 7 steps towards the marriage alliance. So let's take a look at these 7 steps and get an overview as to what we're going to be doing in the next few studies, because we're going to go and look at each step individually as we go. But we've got the 7 steps there, and notice that the top step, our 7th step, is our goal. This is where we are desiring to get at the end of taking these steps, and obviously that is going to be marriage. So the 7th step will be marriage, therefore the previous step will have to be engagement. So we've got step number 6 there being an engagement, and therefore leaving step number 5 as courtship. So if you notice there that there's still 4 steps remaining, and we haven't even got into a relationship yet. And unfortunately, the majority of people bypass these 4 steps and they go into something called dating and falling in love. Now you won't notice anything of the sort, any pattern or plan like that found in the Bible or the Spirit of Prophecy. It talks nothing favourably about falling in love. In fact, there's a law of physics that says that things don't fall up, they only fall down. And so we don't want to be down on that destruction road like the broad road that we see many people going on. But we want to ascend into heavenly places, as Jesus said, let things in heaven be on earth. And we saw that that is connected to doing God's will. So we don't want to be doing this falling in love thing that the world does, in fact. But notice what inspiration has to say on love. Now, this is from a book called Letters to Young Lovers, and again, I urge people, please read this book, particularly young people. I'm going to leave a description, in the description there, I'm going to leave a link there for you guys to check it out. It's not a very big book, but it will be a blessing to you. I guarantee you it will be a blessing if you just read it, especially before you enter into a relationship. Notice what it says on love. It says that love is a sentiment so sacred that but few know what it is. So you're telling me that most people don't actually know what love is? It says that it is a term used but not understood. So most people don't even understand what love is. It says the warm glow of impulse, the fascination of one young person for another is not love. It does not deserve the name. Well, I don't know if I could be any clearer on the subject, but most people And we saw 99% don't actually understand what true love is. Notice what it says, impulse and fascination is not love. Yet that's what you hear the majority of people. You talk about love and they always talk about a feeling, an impulse they get. Follow your heart, all this. But that leads to destruction, complete and utter rubbish of the world, and not God's plan at all. Notice what it says. True love has an intellectual basis. What? Is that right? Sometimes when you're reading some of these quotes, you've got to rub your eyes and see if you've read it right. But we've read it right. True love is based on intellectual. So that means that it will be something that we'll be able to think about, something that we'll be able to reason through. And unfortunately, most people feel that they're in love because they've got a feeling for someone and they're in no position to take counsel because they're not intellectual about it at all. But it says a deep, thorough knowledge of the object love. That is what true love is. True love has an intellectual basis. Remember, the true Christian won't be falling in love because the world falls in love and then soon they fall out of love. And that's why we have so many ruined marriages and society is just completely breaking down at the seams because this has not been understood by the majority of the people. You see, the true Christian won't fall into this experience, but they will ascend these steps to heavenly places. And they will always have their feet firmly founded upon principles that God lays down in His Word. And so, you see that the world doesn't have a foundation for their steps towards the marriage, and that's why they're stumbling and they're falling, and it's just making a mess of their life. But Jesus says in John chapter 10 that He came to give life, but not just life, but that you may have life more abundant. Jesus wants us to be happy. He wants us to be abundant in this life. And if we follow His pattern and His plan, then we can be assured of one thing, and that is true happiness and true love for our life. And so let us determine today to follow God's path. Let us determine to ascend those steps that Jesus has laid out for us, and that we won't be falling far below God's ideal for the marriage relation. And so, again, let us seek to do God's will, that we may ascend into the true ideal for marriage. Our next study is going to be showing that there is actually a foundation to be laid before we even ascend these steps. So we're going to be having a look at the foundation laid before we begin our ascension to the marriage alliance. So I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, God bless.